Hello, hello, and welcome to this edition of the Right Book Company's Author Talks. I'm so delighted to have you with us today. Thank you so much. And I'm also very, very happy that my guest today is an internationally recognized speaker, leadership expert, and a sought after performance and executive coach. Your leadership career isn't just about achieving results. It's about upholding extraordinary performance consistently. Our guest today has written the book, The Performance Advantage, and it's your expert roadmap towards a transformative journey towards unprecedented professional success. It's time to unleash your performance advantage. Everyone, please welcome Agnes Cserhati.
Wow, thank you very much, Sue, for that fantastic introduction. Please allow me also to welcome whether you're listening to this live on any of the channels or you're watching this, of course, later on in a recording. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Agnes, and it's such a treat for us to have you with us. We have so enjoyed our part of the journey with you producing this amazing book, which I know has been kind of in your heart and your head and in your life in many, many ways for many, many years. So perhaps we could kick off by you telling us a little bit about what it is that you do and tell us a bit about your work and yeah, that high performance work that you do yourself with other people.
Well, thank you for that. Apart from that, I'm of course the CEO and founder of AC Power Coaching, and we work globally, internationally, over 100 countries around the world. I love complex, challenging, and diverse opportunities, and in a very nutshell, of course, I coach senior leaders, high performing senior leaders, their teams and organizations. I also do a lot of design and deliver a lot of training programs as well, public speaking, consultancy, all along this line. But I think what's probably even more important for the audience here to think this, who is the person behind? Because I think we're reading all this on LinkedIn, including us, hopefully, and there is a purpose for it. But I think it's important to know that I'm a professional catalyst. I see myself as a professional catalyst. I love, and there is no understatement, I love connecting people. I love connecting thoughts, ideas, context. And yes, I know that comes with certain complexity and of course delivered with a passion and energy occasionally as well. So I'm also a relentless observer, and that doesn't just come through and in the book. And I know we here perhaps talking about the book, but in general everything I do, because observation, the beauty of observation, that the minute you stop observing you start judging. So the longer as a human you can navigate the biases. We all biased, no? There's no way, we're human beings. But the longer you can navigate and manage your biases, you observe the situation, the better the insight it is, because the insight comes from the presence as well. And then if anything else, I'm having this unwavering curiosity, and I'm laughing here slightly because of course being my publisher, you have been on the receiving end of this unwavering curiosity and kind of interest in others, but also in human behavior. And I always say I'm on a mission to make leaders, people think differently. And when I'm not able to do that, when I lose the curiosity, the drive to connect, the drive to observe, that's the point where I need to stop. So in a longer nutshell, perhaps that is an insight into not only who I am, but of course my thinking as well, which is very, very important.
Absolutely, Agnes, and we have been enjoying many wonderful conversations during the time that we've And I love that curiosity. I love that. I think that spirit of curiosity that you wear right there on your sleeve is a terrific advantage for someone who does the kind of work that you do with senior leaders in organizations. So what interests me is I wonder if we could just dig in a little bit to this whole idea of what high performance means. You know, what when you talk about the performance advantage, and we will come on to talk absolutely about the book, and it's key, obviously key, and we want everyone to know more about what you've done with this book, which is extraordinary. But you know, it comes from this notion of high performance. Where does that come from for you? Where does this drive for high performance come from?
From an early age, and if whether you read the book or you're going to the book, you're gonna be facing this in the first line, really, because
Yeah.
I started the book very brutally and honestly saying that I was 10 years old when I decided to be a high performer.
Yeah.
And I grew up in rural Hungary during the communism. So when you're thinking where that classroom is, that maths classroom that I'm referring to in the book at the beginning, and I decided that this is not the level that I want. I was a very good student. I sat in the back of the class. I knew the answers and I quietly waited for everyone. So I didn't bother anybody. But I thought, is this my potential? Now, I may not necessarily use these words at that point sophisticatedly, but what I was thinking, is this it for me? Who actually develops, grows people who are doing well, who are successful, whatever words you may wish to use, who are already at their current potential? I mean, surely they would also like to grow. So that curiosity for me started from a self-interest. And then, of course, I started observing others. And I had the opportunity to fund my own business, sell my own business. And the top advice I got there, I think that was a pivotal point to this kind of high performance thinking, taking it to another level. Somebody said to me, Agnes, you achieved, you know, incredible success so far within those 4 years, but go and understand what made you successful so you can recreate it. And at that point, I mean, I trusted the person. So I thought he was a wise individual. I was still 22. And I thought, I'm not sure what that means, but I'm going to investigate it. So off I went. And this is when I realized, really crystallized in me, that there's a huge difference between achievement and performance. And achievement is not a wrong thing. I have also achieved a lot of things along the lines, and it's not something we shouldn't strive for. But performance is something else. Performance is much more consistent. It's working on your own potential. We don't all have to have the same performance level. And if it was my way, and that's why I'm so passionate about this, to getting away from this achievement obsession almost, whether it's media, social media, is instant. Because if we focus more on performance, I'm pretty sure we would have less burnout and less stress, because performance is not about constantly working. That some people think, and high performance is not about working all the time. But if you look at sport and athletes, they, let's take a runner, they don't just run and that makes them. There is the rest, there is the practice, and there is the performance. So that allows you to be at your best over a period of time. And the rest doesn't mean that I'm doing nothing. So this is rest, maybe for some of you, if you're listening to kind of developing, growing yourself, taking an interest in others, but it's not necessarily doing the work. So 18, 16 hours in the office doesn't necessarily make you a high performer, and it's not sustainable. So it's a very important point, and a very serious point behind it.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? And I guess, when it comes to working with people who are immensely effective and powerful and, running big organizations and the kind of level that you work at with people, many people perhaps are carrying around that myth with them that, that in some way that it has to be this massive level of achievement that we consistently are reaching for. Performance, I guess that where you differentiate there, for me, it seems that high performance is about always turning up and doing your best, but it's much more about that than it is about achieving anything in particular every day, sort of thing.
But not quite. I think, high performance is also turning up, doing your best, but also pushing yourself to your best potential. So,
Got you.
high performance doesn't necessarily happen in a comfort zone. It will when you reach and yeah, and what high performance was meant when I was 22, surely that wouldn't land me here talking to you. Or so it goes, it changes. We need to constantly grow with it. But I think where your focus goes, energy flows, and where do you put the focus? And with those individuals who to all of us look like, well, what can they grow and develop? This is where I think we're looking at tiny things. This is where we're looking at marginal gains, and that's where the 12 principles comes in. What are those things, those small shifts, those small gains that they can do in order to maintain, if they're already in that zone, maintain, because you're not going to be a high performer with the same outcome all the time. The world changes, the context changes, but how do you grow and develop yourself? So it's not about not achieving, but it's about where do you put your focus. And trust me, whoever's listening here, trust me, achievement will fall out. That is the ultimate, that will come. So don't fear you're not achieving because you focus on performance. Quite the other way around.
Brilliant, brilliant, Agnes. And those of you who are listening to this, please feel free to pop your comments or questions into whichever message box you're on, whether you're on Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever you are. Please do feel free to. If you've got any questions for Agnes, we will do our best to cover them as we go on. You mentioned the 12 principles there. You mentioned these lovely marginal gains, this is we're coming to the book now. This is the book. This is the fabulous book that you've written. And there you go. And I'd love you just to kind of, perhaps you could speak to those 12 principles. Clearly, we probably can't go through all of them today. Sadly, we've not got enough time. But this is your methodology, isn't it? This is what underpins all of the work that you do. And in this book, you have beautifully laid this methodology out for us so that it's a truly practical book. And I wonder if perhaps you could tell us a little bit about those principles.
Absolutely. And I think it's very important to highlight that it's not about 1 to 12. So it's you don't if you get the book, there are 12 principles at your disposal. Now, if you wish to go through all of them and look at where are you in your journey and what marginal gains and what area you would like to tap in, you can. The book has been written like that. The book has also been written deliberately because the audience, senior leaders, are very, very busy people. Typically, many of you have done all the management courses. So it's not for me to redefine what leadership and management in and teach you all the existing theories. But it's really whether you want to take one principle or whether you want to take one of the parts. The three parts. One is deliberately starts with self. Without us, there's no leadership. So you can be everything else. You can have wonderful team. If you can't lead yourself, it won't lead sustainably on a long term to success. So the next level of success, the first four principles, is really starting with your thinking. Now your thinking drives your emotions and your behavior. So high performance thinking, talking about your superpower, which is often a very popular thing, to resilience, and subtracting complexity to add value, which is my sort of lifetime hobby, should I say, in that sense. So it had to be that. And I know it works because there's a lot of evidence, a lot of observations on that. Only then I say, looking to your next leadership level. And people say, well, it's a leadership book. Why don't I start with leadership? Well, of course, you have to get your, so when you garden, you have to get the soil in order before and plant something.
Mm.
So, and again, how to navigate your leadership journey. Many of you have talked about your career, your next job, but how many of you have truly thought, what is my leadership journey look like? Really, where did it start? Where am I going? Again, self leadership is in it. I couldn't write anything without the art of communication. I do a lot of personality analysis, and those are behavior science as well. So it's very important. And as we getting wiser, should I say, not necessarily older, but wiser and more experienced, we have to do much more unlearning than learning, I'm afraid. So
Absolutely.
again, to say the unlearning, and then I kind of tail it off, or the pinnacle of it is your career success, because the job belongs to the organization, career belongs to you. So I'm always saying I'm not a job coach and not an achievement coach. I'm a performance coach and a career coach. And there is a reason for that. So it's important. Personal branding, we are blind and deaf, really. We cannot be without and underestimate the power of personal branding. It's what people think about you when you're not in the room.
Mm.
It's a powerful thing. Either you define it or somebody else will define it for you. So again, you have a choice. Then influence, and I'm looking at the book there if you just to go in order, if you're wondering what am I looking at. And then of course there is one principle that I had to bring in, which somehow looks like a more practical, not that the rest is not, but more concept based, is transformation and change. Because I have never worked with any senior leader whose bread and butter is not leading change and leading transformation, putting to large projects. So I think it had to be in the book. So it takes you on a journey. You don't have to go from 1 to 12. And it's very, very practical. So if you read it, you can try something tomorrow immediately. There are little performance hacks in it, high performance hacks. There's the sort of reflectant and area actually in grow, so you can have questions in it, so you can treat it as a workbook, you can treat it as a sort of reading, but be curious and be open to make those small shifts. And there is lots of stories in it as well, stories not just of myself, don't stories of many, many wonderful leaders
Yeah.
who allowed me, of course, to share their journey as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Agnes. That's a wonderful kind of dip into a wonderful book, and a wonderful book that is very easy to dip into. And I love a book like that. It's a great book for your bedside table, actually, because you can literally dip in, just as you said, and I've enjoyed doing that very much. So perhaps you could tell our audience a little bit about about the process of writing the book. When I mean, we alluded at the beginning to the fact that this book had been sort of around with you and in you, and for many years probably before we met. What happened? When did you decide, and how did you decide that this book needed to appear in the world?
That's beautifully, beautifully put, Sue. I mean, I'm honest, and I'm saying I've never set out, I'm going to have to write a book. Huh? I'm not an achievement. It's not a sort of, token I had to have. But what I have set out, and has always been my vision, is to share, to inspire.
Mm.
And as the business and my audience was growing, of course one realizes that of course you're only talking to certain layer of people, certain organizations, certain, so how true was I to my purpose? I really had to be honest with myself and say, am I really sharing to inspire some and not the others? Don't give the opportunity to others, because I do a lot of bespoke now, a lot of bespoke programs, design a lot of things. So public access is somewhat limited to me, not because it's just happened this way. And I had to kind of realize this, and I thought, this is really bothering me because it's a core purpose of me. And how can I really share to inspire even many, and also inspire others to create more leaders? So equip and empower other leaders to pass this on. I didn't want this book to be, oh, it's my name on it, but it's not for me. It's for the reader.
Yeah.
And it really truly is. And I think that has to be said. So interestingly, many people thought I've written books. In fact, I've written many books. Um, some even very kindly when they share Agnes Cserhati's latest book. This is my first book. And I'm brutally honest, at the age of 50, I have written my first book. But of course, it's all been here. And the challenge, and this is where publisher comes in, a lot of patients, the editors, and every family, everybody else who has entourage behind me, whose name is not on the cover, perhaps, comes in and to say, how do you transport what's in here? For sure, it was here, actually down to into a format that perhaps not my usual format. So while I had a lot of experience in training, talking, coaching, you name it, as an author, I had zero experience. Yes, I write and I communicate, but I have never written a book. So the gap was huge, the risk was huge, the excitement and challenge was huge. I like a bit of a challenge, but that
Yeah.
is the purpose, is truly fulfilling that purpose. And I think I had to take my responsibility seriously to share,
Yeah.
to inspire. So I went for it.
You did, and thank heavens you did. Wonderful that you did, and thank you for doing so. Um, I'm going to come back to asking you a little bit more about the book and what you went. But we do have a question, and I wonder if you could just speak to this, because this is a really great question from Bev, actually, from our Bev. What's the first step to take if you want to become a high performance leader?
Fantastic. So if you want to become a high performance leader, you need to think like a high performance leader. So
Mhm.
it's really, I don't want you to believe that is some sort of a, oh, you do this and you become a high performance leader. So it's really about the mindset of thinking.
Mm.
It's really understanding what does it take, because where do I put the focus? So I think it's a really important aspect, and this is why I principle one is high performance thinking, not
Thinking, yeah.
high performance leadership. So um, in the sort of absence of time here, and I'm sort of respectful, I could go on about it for a long time, but I think principle one is definitely principle one for a reason. While well, I think high performance thinking is a critical. So what does that mean? How do I think like a high performer? It's kind of laid out nice and systematically there, but to kind of have access to it, even just to change your perspective, it's rather than, oh, do this or do this, it's not something like that. It's changing your own perspective, and
Mm,
it's changing your focus from achievement to performance, and understand what does it actually mean to you,
mm.
and not to fear, to be able to make mistakes, to able to let go, to do a lot of those things. So it's all about thinking pattern, high performance thinking. Very, very good question, thank you.
Thank you, Agnes. So you've had an amazing experience writing this book and doing a lot of your own thinking, and
Oh
you've
yes.
described often to me that and I think a lot of authors do find this, but that the writing of the book, yes, it's your stuff, it's the stuff you've been working with and on, and it's you and it's your stories and the stories of the people that you've worked with. That's all a part of you. But would you say that? And I think I'm always interested to know what the process of the book writing did for you. What did it change you? Did it change your perspective? Did that thinking develop? What was it like, Agnes, when you actually got to it and you got down and said, right, well, I'm going to write this book?
Well, I think is, in true high performance fashion, I kind of, taking the idea and concept, and I spent a lot of time on the structure. because I took it. So everybody has a different approach. This is my approach, and
Yeah.
I'm happy to share that. So it's a non-fiction book, so it had to have a certain reader who is busy, who is developed. I have certain concepts in my head, and of course, how do you put it in a format that is understandable for the reader? If it's not understandable and valuable for them, then I wrote a book for myself, and that's not the book I wanted to write.
Mm.
And I wanted people to share, to inspire them. They take it along. So that was a very important mission. So it's a little bit like building a new house and first deciding where the rooms are.
Yes.
And that's, I think, so critical. And then, of course, you design the interior. And that's those are the words. Now, often people ask how many words you did and how many pages, and perhaps maybe some thought I was arrogant to say, that doesn't matter. What I meant is that, having the flow, having the story, that is the important part.
Yeah.
That is the no? That is the challenge that I
Yes.
had to kind of combine, really. But it's I would say, it's for me. People ask me what was it like to the
Mm.
writing process. It's a lot of discipline and a lot of
Mm.
decision making, because I had to make a decision what not to put in there. In my case, with so much experience and so many different stories in here, and holding it for so long perhaps as well. And it's a discipline. It's like an athlete. I had the team around me. I had you, the publishers, the entire now
Mhm.
family as well. So my job was like an athlete, is to run, to perform and practice and rest. And you do that every single day, and that point you exercise those writing muscles as well.
Yeah.
But I did not know it. Who knows? I mean, even experienced authors don't know, do they write an expert, do they write you don't know. You have to be able to enjoy the unknown and the journey. And I think that was critical part of it as well. So not to say what will the book look like, but really focus on the process and the reader in mind as well, and the
One.
purpose.
Thank you. Well, that's some great advice for people out there who might be considering writing a book. I wonder if you have one thing that you would give as a piece of advice to any of those potential authors out there, people who um, perhaps have something to share in the way that you did, and are thinking that it would be a good thing to do, to share and inspire, to take your phrase, through writing a book. Is there one thing that one sort of tip that you would give them?
From my perspective, learn to let go. I
Oh,
know it's a strange thing. Perhaps you think, what should I let go? I should focus on. But you will focus much better. So let go in two ways. You decide at the beginning what you're gonna let go of, because you're not gonna have everything, and you're not gonna have everything that way. It's not, you have to decide. And the other thing is to do with let go. Let go. Think about what are you not letting go of? What are those non-negotiable boundaries that, no publisher, no editor is a mind reader. They
mm,
do not know you as know yourself. So despite coming, so are there any points, are there any caveats, these frameworks, typical things that perhaps maybe others don't understand as well, and they don't have to, by the way, no? But it is something that you do and works with your audience, then stick to it, but do explain it, because nobody is a mind reader. So let go. What is it you will let go, and what is it you won't let go, because it's a non-negotiable boundary. And that's what I would say.
oh, wow, that's fantastic. So let go, folks. Let go. Wow. And the book is out there. It's doing really well. And has it made a difference in your business already?
It has made a difference in a sense of, um, how people can see what I do. Because of course, not people I do a lot of bespoke programs, so it's not always that I can post it, and so I think that, that is the bread, that is the tone. And I think it's also to see that personal brand. How do I sound like, feel like, what is my thinking? That is so important as well. And if I may round up, and I know we are we are off on time, but I spotted a question here, and perhaps that is an important question to finish off. And Ulriko is asking, from your point of view, which one is the main characteristic that people recognize as a leader? Where for me, true leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
observe that. Observe that. And I think, what I wanted with the book as well, not for me just to create leaders, but of course people creating more leaders within their organization and passing on. And that doesn't happen when we focus on achievement, but we focus on but it happens when we focus on performance, and your organization, your team, tap into their performance advantage, because you do have it. You got to find it and you got to embrace it.
Well, an absolutely perfect way to end this author talk. Agnes, thank you so much. It's been an absolute delight as ever. That 30 minutes has gone in a flash, as always, but absolutely wonderful to talk to you. Thank you so much. Agnes Cserhati, the author of The Performance Advantage, available to order from all good bookshops, wherever you are in the world. Get a hold of a copy now. Yes, it just remains to say one more big thank you to you, Agnes. And thank you to our audience. Thank you for your great questions. And thank you for being with us. And we look forward to seeing you at the next Right Book Author Talk. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.